Hi guys, tonight, we travel back into the world's most forgotten history. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a land where nearly every day begins the same way. The sky is still dark. The stars remain above the desert. The air is cool for a short while. Somewhere in the distance, quiet water moves through the great Nile River. A soft breeze drifts across fields of grain and through rows of mud-brick homes. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is loud. The world is waking slowly. In ancient Egypt, this gentle beginning happened again and again, year after year, generation after generation. For many people, life followed a rhythm that rarely changed. The same path to the fields. The same work beneath the sun. The same meals. The same neighbors. The same sounds drifting through the village. The same stars returning each night. Today, when people speak about ancient Egypt, they often think of pyramids, kings, and golden treasures. But most Egyptians never lived among riches. Most people were farmers, workers, fishermen, builders, servants, or craftsmen. Their lives moved according to a steady routine. And perhaps that is one reason Egyptian civilization lasted for such a very long time. The days were organized around patterns that felt familiar and dependable. As we quietly enter their world, we find ourselves standing beside the Nile long before sunrise. The river appears almost black beneath the fading stars. Its surface moves gently. Small waves touch muddy banks. Reeds sway softly along the edge of the water. A fisherman is already awake. He sits quietly inside a simple boat made from wood. The boat rocks slightly as he checks his nets. His hands know every knot. He has tied these ropes thousands of times. His father did the same. His grandfather probably did as well. There is comfort in repetition. The fisherman does not need to think about every movement. His body remembers. Above him, the first pale hint of morning begins to appear. The eastern horizon slowly brightens. Across the river, villages begin to wake. A dog barks. A door opens. Someone steps outside into the cool darkness. Soon, small cooking fires begin to glow. Thin streams of smoke rise into the still air. Inside a mud-brick house, a woman kneels beside a grinding stone. Her day begins exactly where yesterday ended. She places grain onto the stone and begins to grind. The motion is steady. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The sound is soft and rhythmic. Many Egyptian women spent hours preparing grain this way. Bread was one of the most important foods in daily life. Every household depended upon it. The work required patience. The grain had to be crushed into flour. The flour had to be mixed. The dough had to be shaped. The bread had to be baked. These tasks happened almost every day. As darkness slowly retreats, more people emerge into narrow streets. Sandals brush against packed earth. Neighbors greet one another quietly. Children rub sleep from their eyes. The village is beginning another familiar day. For the people living here, routine is not something unusual. Routine is life itself. Ancient Egypt depended on order. The Nile followed its seasons. The crops followed their seasons. The people followed their routines. Everything seemed connected. The river flooded. Fields received water. Seeds were planted. Plants grew. Harvests arrived. Then the cycle began again. This pattern shaped nearly every aspect of life. It taught people when to work, when to rest, when to prepare, when to wait. Even the rising sun seemed to follow a dependable path. Each morning it appeared. Each evening it disappeared. The ancient Egyptians saw meaning in this reliability. The world felt stable because certain things always returned. As sunlight spreads across the land, workers begin moving toward the fields. The air remains pleasant for a little while longer. Soon the heat will arrive. Everyone knows this. That is another reason work begins early. A farmer carries a simple tool over his shoulder. Dust rises beneath his feet. He walks beside family members who follow the same route every morning. The path is familiar. Every bend in the road is known. Every tree is known. Every stone is known. After many years, the journey requires little thought. The fields stretch across the fertile land beside the Nile. Unlike the surrounding desert, this soil is dark and rich. It has been fed by river water for countless generations. Here, workers spend long hours tending crops. The labor is repetitive. Seeds must be planted. Weeds must be removed. Water must be managed. Plants must be watched carefully. The tasks rarely change. Day after day, people return to the same responsibilities. Yet there is something peaceful about this rhythm. The farmer knows what tomorrow will bring. Tomorrow will likely look much like today. And today looks much like yesterday. As the sun climbs higher, the village behind him grows busier. Merchants begin arranging goods. Craftsmen open workshops. Potters sit beside spinning wheels. Carpenters inspect pieces of wood. Scribes prepare writing materials. Each person has a role. Each role follows familiar patterns. A scribe's morning begins differently from a farmer's. His work is less physical but still requires discipline. He sits in a shaded area and carefully prepares ink. Nearby lies a smooth writing surface. Records must be copied. Inventories must be maintained. Letters must be written. Accounts must be tracked. His hand moves steadily. Symbols appear one after another. The process is slow, careful, methodical. A mistake means starting over. The work demands patience. Like the farmer, the scribe repeats many of the same actions each day. Practice creates routine. Routine creates skill. And skill becomes part of daily life. The sun continues climbing. Soon the coolness of dawn begins to disappear. Warmth settles across the fields. Workers wipe sweat from their faces. The air feels heavier. Birds call from riverbanks. Insects buzz above irrigation canals. The smell of damp earth mixes with dry desert air. Ancient Egypt was beautiful in its own quiet way. But it could also be exhausting. Much of life involved physical labor. People walked long distances. They carried heavy loads. They worked beneath intense sunlight. Many returned home tired every evening. Their routines were not always easy. Yet these routines allowed communities to survive. As morning becomes afternoon, the heat grows stronger. Shadows shrink. Bright sunlight reflects from stone walls. The ground itself seems warm beneath bare feet and sandals. In a busy workshop, a craftsman pauses briefly. His hands are rough from years of work. Small fragments of stone cover the floor around him. Outside, the street appears almost empty. Many people seek shade whenever possible. The hottest part of the day can feel endless. Even the animals move more slowly. A donkey stands quietly beneath a tree. A dog rests beside a wall. The entire landscape seems to settle into stillness. The Nile continues flowing. Unhurried. Patient. Constant. For thousands of years, people watched these same waters. Children played along its banks. Fishermen launched boats from its shore. Families gathered nearby. The river was more than water. It was the heartbeat of daily life. Without it, routine itself would have been impossible. As afternoon slowly passes, workers begin thinking about home. The long hours have drained their energy. Muscles ache. Skin feels hot from the sun. The simple comforts of evening become increasingly appealing. A shaded room. A meal. A place to sit. A chance to rest. Gradually, paths leading back toward villages become busy once again. Farmers leave fields. Laborers finish tasks. Merchants close stalls. Dust rises as hundreds of feet move through narrow roads. The village welcomes them home. Smoke rises from cooking fires. The smell of baking bread drifts through the air. Children run between homes. Voices carry softly through the streets. After a day of labor, these familiar scenes bring comfort. The evening meal is usually simple. Bread remains important. Vegetables may be served. Fish may be available. Sometimes there is fruit. Sometimes beer made from grain accompanies the meal. Families gather together. The day's work is finished. For a little while, people can relax. The sunlight begins to soften. Golden colors spread across walls and rooftops. Long shadows return. The heat slowly loosens its grip. Many people sit outside their homes. Neighbors talk quietly. Children grow sleepy. The pace of life slows. Again. Just as it does every evening. The ancient Egyptians lived close to natural rhythms. When darkness arrived, activity gradually faded. Without bright artificial light, nights became quieter. The stars emerged. One by one. Soon countless points of light filled the sky. The desert air cooled. The river reflected moonlight. The sounds of work disappeared. In a small home, a family prepares for sleep. Their beds are simple. Their surroundings modest. Yet exhaustion makes rest come easily. After a day spent working beneath the Egyptian sun, sleep often arrives quickly. Outside, the village grows still. Only occasional sounds break the silence. A distant voice. A barking dog. The rustle of wind. The movement of river water. Above everything, the stars continue their slow journey across the night sky. Tomorrow will look very similar. The fisherman will return to his boat. The farmer will return to his field. The scribe will return to his writing. The baker will return to her grain. The merchant will return to his stall. The routines will begin again. Not because people lacked imagination. Not because life never changed. But because routine offered something precious. Predictability. Stability. A sense of place within a larger world. And as the cool night settles gently across the Nile Valley, the sleeping villages of ancient Egypt rest beneath the same stars that watched over countless generations before them. The river flows quietly through the darkness. The desert waits beyond the fields. The homes stand silent. And somewhere, far away in the stillness of the ancient night, another morning is already preparing to arrive. The night remains quiet for a while longer. A thin moon hangs above the Nile. Its pale light touches the surface of the water and turns the gentle ripples into silver lines that drift slowly through the darkness. Most of the village is asleep now. Inside mud-brick homes, families rest after another long day beneath the sun. The walls around them hold some of the day's warmth. Outside, the air has become cooler. A soft desert breeze moves through narrow streets and across flat rooftops. Some people sleep indoors. Others sleep outside where the night air feels more comfortable. A few lanterns still glow faintly. Their small flames flicker behind doorways. But even those lights gradually disappear. Silence settles over the village. It is a familiar silence. One that arrives every evening and leaves every morning. The people of ancient Egypt knew this rhythm well. For them, life moved in circles. The same patterns returned again and again. The same sounds. The same duties. The same journeys beneath the sun. There was comfort in knowing what tomorrow would bring. Hours pass. The stars slowly shift across the sky. The Nile continues its endless journey northward. Its waters never stop moving. Yet strangely, its constant movement helps create stability. The river behaves as it always has. The people trust it. The fields depend upon it. The villages depend upon it. Entire lives are built around its steady presence. Before dawn, the first signs of waking begin once again. A rooster calls somewhere beyond the houses. A dog stirs. A sleeping child rolls onto one side. The eastern horizon remains dark, but not as dark as before. A faint gray light begins to spread. Morning is approaching. One of the first people awake is an elderly baker. Years of habit have trained his body to rise before sunrise. He no longer needs anyone to wake him. His eyes open naturally. He sits quietly for a moment. The village around him remains mostly asleep. Then he stands and begins another day. His movements are slow but practiced. Every action follows a familiar sequence. He prepares fuel for the oven. He checks stored grain. He gathers tools. The routine is so deeply rooted that he hardly needs to think about it. His hands know what to do. They have performed these tasks thousands of times. Soon, faint sounds begin spreading through the settlement. Doors open. Footsteps appear. Cooking fires are lit. Smoke rises into the cool morning air. The village awakens gradually rather than all at once. No loud signal announces the beginning of the day. Life simply unfolds. One household after another joins the rhythm. A woman sits beside a grinding stone. The grain she prepares today may become bread for several family members. The work is demanding. The stone is heavy. The movement requires strength and patience. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The sound becomes part of the morning. Many children grow up hearing it every day. It is one of the first sounds they remember. Long before they understand farming or trade or taxes, they understand the sound of grain being prepared. Nearby, a young boy helps carry water. The clay jar feels heavy in his arms. He walks carefully along a dusty path. This task may seem small, but it matters. Every member of the household contributes something. Life depends upon cooperation. The routines of one person support the routines of another. Water helps prepare food. Food supports workers. Workers maintain fields. Fields feed the village. Everything is connected. As daylight grows stronger, activity increases. The sky changes from gray to pale gold. Sunlight touches rooftops. The river begins reflecting morning colors. Boats appear along the banks. Fishermen prepare to leave shore. Some push small vessels into the water. Others untangle nets. The smell of wet reeds mixes with fresh morning air. For many fishermen, every day begins in almost exactly the same way. The river may change slightly. Weather may shift. But the general rhythm remains constant. The boat leaves shore. The nets enter the water. The waiting begins. Patience is part of the work. The Nile does not rush. Neither do the fishermen. Across the fields, farmers have already started walking toward their crops. The morning coolness will not last long. Everyone understands this. The best hours for labor arrive shortly after sunrise. The land beside the river appears rich and green compared to the surrounding desert. Canals guide water into cultivated areas. Workers inspect the flow carefully. Too little water creates problems. Too much water creates problems as well. Managing irrigation requires attention. It is another task repeated season after season. The knowledge passes from parents to children. Generation after generation learns how water should move through the fields. A young farmer follows beside his father. As they walk, the older man points toward a canal. Perhaps he explains something about soil. Perhaps he speaks about planting. Perhaps he simply shares observations gathered during many years of experience. This is how much knowledge survives. Not through books. Not through grand announcements. But through ordinary conversations during ordinary mornings. The lessons become part of daily life. The son listens. The father teaches. Tomorrow the same lesson may continue. And someday the son may teach his own children. The sun rises higher. Warmth spreads steadily across the landscape. Birds move among reeds near the water. Donkeys carry loads along village roads. Workers settle into their tasks. The day has fully begun. In a nearby town, merchants arrange goods for trade. Their stalls display items brought from different places. Baskets. Cloth. Fish. Vegetables. Pottery. Tools. The marketplace slowly becomes busy. Yet even here, among many people, routines remain important. Merchants often work with familiar customers. People know where to find certain goods. They know which stalls sell particular items. Patterns develop over time. Familiarity creates trust. Trust helps communities function smoothly. A merchant greets a customer he has known for years. Perhaps they exchange the same polite words they exchanged yesterday. Perhaps they will exchange them again tomorrow. Small interactions like these become woven into daily existence. The marketplace is not simply a place of trade. It is also a place of connection. People share news. They discuss weather. They observe changes in the river. They maintain relationships built over many years. Nearby, a potter sits at work. The wheel turns steadily. His hands shape wet clay into useful objects. A bowl. A jar. A storage container. Nothing about the process feels rushed. The clay responds best to calm hands. Too much force can ruin the shape. Too little attention can create flaws. The potter understands this balance. Like so many Egyptian workers, he depends upon repetition. Every vessel begins with familiar movements. Every finished piece reflects years of practice. As morning becomes midday, sunlight grows stronger. The sky turns bright and clear. Heat settles over roads and buildings. The stone walls of temples absorb warmth. Dust hangs lightly in the air. People seek whatever shade they can find. Under a simple shelter, a scribe continues writing. His work differs greatly from farming. Yet it also follows routine. Documents must be copied carefully. Records must remain organized. Names must be written correctly. Numbers must be checked. His reed pen moves across the surface with practiced precision. Writing requires concentration. Mistakes waste valuable time. The scribe works steadily. Around him, the sounds of the town continue. Footsteps. Voices. Animals. Distant hammering. The world remains busy, but never frantic. Ancient life often moved at the pace of human bodies rather than machines. People worked until they grew tired. They rested when necessary. They followed sunlight. They followed seasons. They followed the natural limits of strength and endurance. As afternoon approaches, fatigue begins to appear. A laborer wipes sweat from his forehead. A merchant stretches sore muscles. A farmer pauses briefly beside a canal. The heat can be relentless, especially during the hottest months. Many workers understand that conserving energy is important. Long days require careful effort. Exhaustion is common. People learn to live with it. In some homes, meals are being prepared. The smell of baking bread drifts through narrow streets. Someone chops vegetables. Someone stirs a pot. Someone carries fresh water indoors. Cooking itself follows familiar routines. Recipes are not always written down. Instead, they live inside memory. A mother teaches a daughter. An older sibling teaches a younger one. Skills pass naturally from person to person. The knowledge becomes part of family life. Outside, sunlight slowly begins its journey toward evening. The change is gradual, almost unnoticed at first. Shadows lengthen. The brightest heat begins to fade. Workers feel relief. The hardest hours are ending. Across the fields, people gather tools. They inspect their work. They prepare for tomorrow. Then they begin walking home. Dust rises beneath their sandals. The roads become busy once more. The same roads used yesterday. The same roads that will be used tomorrow. Routine is visible everywhere. In the paths people walk. In the tools they carry. In the timing of meals. In the opening and closing of workshops. The entire society moves according to shared rhythms. As evening approaches, the atmosphere softens. The harsh brightness of midday disappears. Golden light spreads across mudbrick walls. Palm trees cast long shadows. The Nile glows beneath the lowering sun. Children play near homes. Their laughter drifts through the warm air. Adults sit nearby. Some repair tools. Some talk quietly. Some simply rest. After many hours of labor, stillness feels welcome. The village seems to exhale. A fisherman returns with his catch. His boat touches shore. The day has ended much as it began. He gathers nets. He secures equipment. Tomorrow he will return. The routine continues. The river continues. The seasons continue. Evening meals bring families together once again. Simple foods are shared. Conversations unfold. Stories are told. The worries of work fade temporarily. For a little while, people enjoy rest. The sky slowly changes color. Gold becomes orange. Orange becomes purple. Purple becomes deep blue. One star appears. Then another. Soon countless stars fill the heavens. Ancient Egyptians spent much of their lives beneath these skies. Far from bright modern lights, the stars appeared remarkably clear. People watched them often. They became familiar companions during quiet evenings. As darkness deepens, activity gradually slows. Workshops close. Market stalls empty. Voices grow softer. The village prepares for sleep. Inside homes, families settle down. Outside, the Nile flows quietly through the night. Its waters reflect moonlight. Its banks grow silent. Tomorrow another day will arrive. Another sunrise. Another walk to the fields. Another batch of bread. Another journey across the river. Another evening beside cooking fires. And for the people of ancient Egypt, there is reassurance in that certainty. The world feels orderly. The river returns. The sun returns. The seasons return. And beneath the stars of the ancient Nile Valley, the gentle rhythm of daily life continues without hurry, drifting peacefully into another quiet night. The stars remain overhead long after most people have fallen asleep. Across the Nile Valley, villages rest in silence. Mud-brick walls stand quietly beneath the moonlight. Palm trees sway gently in the cool night air. Along the riverbanks, reeds whisper as a soft breeze passes through them. The day's labor is over. Fields are empty. Workshops are dark. Cooking fires have faded into glowing embers. Only the river continues its steady movement through the darkness. It never seems to sleep. Ancient Egyptians lived close to this rhythm for thousands of years. The river flowed. The sun rose. The crops grew. People worked. Then night returned. Again and again. The cycle was so familiar that many people could hardly imagine life any other way. As midnight slowly passes, the village becomes even quieter. The occasional bark of a dog fades into the distance. A boat tied along the shore rocks gently against its rope. Somewhere nearby, a sleeping child turns beneath a simple linen covering. The air feels pleasant now. Very different from the heat that filled the afternoon. This coolness is precious. Many people enjoy these nighttime hours because they offer relief from the relentless sun. The desert itself seems calmer after dark. Even the ground releases the warmth it collected throughout the day. Hours pass. The moon drifts higher. Then gradually begins its slow journey downward. Soon the first signs of morning approach once again. The darkness softens. The eastern horizon grows pale. A few birds begin calling from the reeds. The village is preparing to wake. No one announces it. No bells ring across the landscape. Life simply begins again. A farmer opens his eyes before sunrise. For a moment he lies still. His body already knows the routine ahead. The same field. The same path. The same tools. The same long hours beneath the sky. He rises quietly so he does not wake everyone else. The floor beneath his feet feels cool. Outside, the air still carries traces of the night. Soon that coolness will disappear. But for now, the world feels gentle. Nearby, another household is already stirring. A woman prepares grain. The familiar grinding stone waits where it always does. Her hands begin their work. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The motion is steady and practiced. Years of repetition have made it almost effortless. The sound blends with other morning noises beginning to emerge across the village. Doors opening. Footsteps. Low voices. Animals moving in their enclosures. These sounds form a kind of music. Not a performance. Not a celebration. Simply the ordinary music of daily life. For most Egyptians, routine began long before adulthood. Children learned responsibilities early. They watched parents work. They helped with simple tasks. They carried water, fed animals, gathered supplies, swept floors, fetched tools. Little by little, they became familiar with the rhythms that shaped the entire community. A young girl may learn how to prepare bread. A young boy may learn how to help in the fields. Over time, these lessons become habits. And those habits become part of everyday life. The rising sun slowly spreads light across the Nile Valley. The river begins to shine. Mist lingers briefly above the water before disappearing into the warming air. Fishermen step into boats. Their nets are folded neatly. Their movements are calm. There is no need to hurry. The river will still be there. The fish will still be there. The day will unfold as it always does. A fisherman pushes away from shore. The boat glides quietly across the surface. Water laps gently against the sides. Birds circle overhead. The morning feels peaceful. Out in the fields, farmers are already at work. The fertile land beside the Nile contrasts sharply with the surrounding desert. One side offers life and crops. The other stretches outward in vast golden silence. The Egyptians understood this contrast deeply. Every harvest depended on careful attention. Fields required constant work. Canals needed maintenance. Water levels needed observation. Seeds required planting. Plants required protection. None of these tasks happened only once. They happened repeatedly. Season after season. Year after year. The routine itself became a source of stability. When people knew what needed to be done, uncertainty became smaller. The work was demanding, but it was familiar. And familiar things often feel less frightening. As sunlight strengthens, villages become increasingly active. Merchants begin arranging goods. Donkeys carry supplies along dusty roads. Children run errands for their families. The smell of baking bread drifts through the air. A potter shapes clay. A carpenter smooths wood. A weaver works carefully with linen threads. Everywhere, people perform tasks they have performed countless times before. Ancient Egypt depended upon these ordinary workers far more than it depended upon famous rulers. Kings appeared and disappeared. Dynasties rose and fell. But farmers continued planting. Bakers continued baking. Fishermen continued fishing. The routine of everyday life carried the civilization forward. Inside a workshop, a craftsman sits beside unfinished objects. Perhaps he is carving wood. Perhaps he is shaping stone. Perhaps he is repairing tools used by others. Whatever his trade, repetition remains essential. The hands become skilled through practice. The eyes learn to recognize mistakes quickly. The body remembers movements without conscious effort. Each day adds another layer of experience. And over many years, simple routines create remarkable expertise. Outside, the heat begins building once more. The sun climbs steadily. The sky remains clear. Shade becomes increasingly valuable. People move carefully between sunny and shaded areas whenever possible. Many ancient jobs demanded physical endurance. Workers often spent hours standing, lifting, carrying, or walking. Their bodies carried the marks of hard labor. Muscles ached. Feet grew sore. Skin darkened beneath the sun. Fatigue became a familiar companion. Yet life continued. Responsibilities could not wait. The crops needed attention. The boats needed repair. The bread needed baking. The records needed writing. In a shaded corner, A scribe sits cross-legged with writing materials beside him. His work appears quieter than that of a farmer. Yet it requires its own kind of discipline. He carefully prepares ink. He arranges documents. Then he begins writing. Each symbol must be clear. Each line must remain organized. Mistakes are frustrating. Accuracy matters. Hour after hour, he works patiently. The routine may seem repetitive, but repetition brings confidence. The scribe knows exactly what is expected. That certainty provides structure. And structure provides comfort. Across the settlement, life continues unfolding according to familiar patterns. A merchant negotiates a trade. A mother prepares a meal. A child carries water. An elderly man repairs a fishing net. None of these moments seem extraordinary. Most people probably pay little attention to them. Yet together they form the foundation of daily existence. History often remembers dramatic events. But most lives are built from ordinary days. The ancient Egyptians understood this without needing to say it. Their world depended upon countless small actions repeated over and over. As midday approaches, the heat becomes intense. The sunlight reflects from walls and stone surfaces. Dust hangs lightly in the air. Workers wipe perspiration from their faces. Animals seek shelter beneath trees. Even conversations become quieter. The hottest part of the day encourages stillness. A laborer pauses briefly beneath a shaded structure. His muscles feel tired. His shoulders ache from carrying heavy loads. For a few moments, he simply rests. The shade feels wonderful. The breeze feels wonderful. These small comforts become especially meaningful after long hours of work. Nearby, someone drinks cool water from a clay vessel. The water tastes slightly earthy. The container itself helps keep it cooler than the surrounding air. Simple technologies often fit naturally into daily routines. People learn what works. Then they continue doing it. Generation after generation. As afternoon slowly passes, energy levels begin to fade. The work continues, but movements become slower. The body grows tired. The mind begins turning toward home. Toward food. Toward rest. Toward family. Across the fields, farmers inspect crops one final time before preparing to leave. A fisherman gathers equipment. A merchant counts goods. A craftsman organizes tools. The day is approaching its end. Once again, roads leading toward villages become busy. Workers walk home together. Dust rises beneath sandals. The golden light of late afternoon spreads across the landscape. Palm trees cast long shadows. The Nile glows softly beneath the lowering sun. The scene has unfolded thousands of times before. And tomorrow it will unfold again. Children wait near homes. Some help prepare meals. Others play games before darkness arrives. Parents return carrying tools and supplies. Voices fill the evening air. The atmosphere feels lighter now. The hardest work is finished. Families gather. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. People discuss crops. Fishing. Neighbors. Weather. Small concerns of daily life. The conversations themselves often follow familiar paths. Many topics return again and again. The river. The harvest. The coming season. The condition of animals. The needs of the household. Routine is present even in conversation. Not because life lacks variety, but because certain things always matter. As the sun disappears beyond the horizon, cooler air begins to return. The sky changes color slowly. Gold fades into orange. Orange fades into deep purple. Then darkness gradually spreads across the valley. The first stars appear. Ancient Egyptians often looked upward during these moments. The night sky was vast and clear. Its familiar patterns offered reassurance. Just as the river followed its path, the stars followed theirs. Order seemed present everywhere. In the heavens. In the seasons. In daily life. Perhaps this is one reason routines felt so important. The world itself appeared to move according to dependable cycles. People simply join those cycles. Night deepens. Families prepare for sleep. A few quiet conversations continue outside. Some people sit beneath the stars enjoying the cooler air. Others are already resting. The village grows calmer with each passing moment. Eventually silence returns. The same gentle silence that settled over the Nile Valley countless nights before. The river flows quietly through the darkness. Reeds sway along its banks. A faint breeze drifts across sleeping homes. And beneath a sky filled with ancient stars, another peaceful night settles over Egypt, carrying the steady rhythm of everyday life gently forward into the hours before dawn. The Nile moves quietly through the darkness. Its waters reflect a sky filled with stars, and along the riverbanks the reeds bend gently whenever the night breeze passes through them. Most of the village is asleep. The sounds of the day have faded away. The workshops are silent. The fields are empty. The cooking fires have gone dark. Only a few faint glows remain behind small doorways where embers still hold a little warmth. For a short time, the world feels still. Ancient Egypt was a land of activity, labor, and routine, but each night brought a pause. A brief resting place between one familiar day and the next. Inside a modest mud-brick house, a family sleeps close together. The room is simple. A few possessions rest against the wall. Storage jars stand quietly in one corner. Baskets are stacked nearby. Nothing appears luxurious. Yet these objects are important. They are used every day. The same jar may hold grain tomorrow. The same basket may carry vegetables. The same tools may return to the fields. Life is built from ordinary things that quietly serve their purpose again and again. Outside, the air grows cooler. This is often the most comfortable part of the entire day. The desert that surrounded the fertile Nile Valley releases the heat it collected beneath the sun. Temperatures fall. The breeze becomes softer. People who spent hours sweating beneath the afternoon sun finally experience relief. A sleeping farmer shifts slightly beneath a linen covering. His muscles are tired. His hands are rough. Tomorrow he will wake before sunrise and return to work. But for now, rest is enough. Across the village, hundreds of others sleep in much the same way. Their lives are different in small details. Some fish. Some farm. Some trade goods. Some make pottery. Some write records. Yet nearly all of them share one thing. They follow routines. The same daily patterns connect the entire community. Hours pass slowly. The moon drifts across the sky. Eventually the first signs of morning begin to appear once again. A faint gray line forms along the horizon. The stars slowly fade. The darkness softens. The village prepares to wake. The transition happens gradually. One household stirs. Then another. Then another. Soon the familiar sounds of morning begin spreading through the settlement. Footsteps. Voices. Doors opening. Animals moving. Cooking fires being lit. The rhythm starts again. A woman kneels beside a grinding stone. The grain must be prepared before bread can be baked. The work is demanding. It requires strength and patience. The stone moves steadily beneath her hands. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The sound blends with dozens of similar sounds throughout the village. Every morning, countless households perform this same task. Bread sits at the center of daily life. Without it, families cannot easily feed themselves. The routine continues because it must. Nearby, a young child watches. Perhaps he is still too small to help very much. For now, he simply observes. He learns by watching. One day these tasks will become familiar to him as well. The routines of ancient Egypt were often passed from one generation to the next without formal instruction. Children absorbed them naturally. They grew up surrounded by repetition. The same work. The same seasons. The same responsibilities. Little by little, they learned where they belonged within the community. As sunlight begins touching the rooftops, workers prepare for another day. Sandals are tied. Tools are gathered. Water jars are filled. The roads leading toward the fields slowly become busy. Farmers walk together through the cool morning air. Many have traveled these same paths for years. Some have traveled them for decades. Every bend in the road is familiar. Every tree. Every canal. Every landmark. The landscape becomes part of memory. In many ways, routine is simply memory turned into action. The body remembers where to go. The hands remember what to do. The mind follows a path already traveled countless times before. The farmers arrive at their fields. The land beside the Nile appears dark and fertile. Water from the river has nourished the soil for generations. Without the annual flooding of the Nile, life here would be very different. The river shapes everything. Even daily schedules depend upon it. Its cycles determine planting. Its cycles determine harvesting. Its cycles influence work throughout the year. People learn to adjust their routines according to the behavior of the water. Some seasons are busier than others. Some require intense labor. Others allow brief periods of recovery. Yet every season brings its own familiar rhythm. A farmer bends to inspect young plants. Nearby, another clears weeds. Further away, someone repairs a section of irrigation canal. The work continues steadily. No one rushes. The day is long. Energy must be used carefully. The morning remains pleasant for a while. Birds move through the reeds. A light breeze crosses the fields. The air smells of damp soil and growing crops. But everyone knows the heat is coming. By midday the landscape will feel very different. In the village, artisans begin their work. A potter sits before a wheel. A carpenter organizes tools. A weaver arranges threads. Each craft follows a routine of its own. The potter begins with clay. The carpenter begins with wood. The weaver begins with fibers. The starting materials may differ, but the process remains similar. Skill grows through repetition. The craftsman performs the same motions again and again. Over time those motions become precise, reliable, efficient. Years pass. Experience deepens. The routine becomes part of the worker's identity. A skilled artisan often carries decades of practice within his hands. Every movement reflects countless earlier days. In another part of the settlement, a merchant opens his stall. The marketplace slowly awakens. Goods are arranged carefully. Baskets are positioned. Storage jars are checked. Customers begin arriving. Trade may appear more varied than farming. Different people arrive each day. Different goods change hands. Yet even here, routines are important. The merchant knows where items belong. He knows when customers usually arrive. He understands the rhythms of the marketplace. Order helps everything function smoothly. As the sun climbs higher, the heat begins to build. The morning coolness slowly disappears. Workers feel the change. Shadows shorten. The brightness becomes stronger. The air grows heavier. Throughout ancient Egypt, people learned to organize their lives around this daily transformation. Work begins early because the coolest hours are valuable. By midday, even simple tasks can feel exhausting. A laborer carrying stone pauses briefly. Sweat runs down his face. His breathing slows as he rests. Nearby, another worker drinks water from a clay container. The cool liquid provides welcome relief. These small moments matter. Life is often measured through simple comforts. A cool breeze. Fresh water. Shade. Rest. After hours of labor, such things feel precious. The sun reaches its highest point. The landscape glows beneath intense light. Dusty roads appear almost white. Stone walls radiate heat. Animals gather beneath whatever shade they can find. Even conversations become quieter. The entire world seems slower during these hours. Ancient Egyptians did not have machines to carry much of their burden. Their bodies performed the work. Their muscles moved the stone. Their hands shaped the clay. Their feet carried them across fields and roads. Physical effort touched nearly every part of daily life. This reality influenced routines as much as anything else. People learned how much energy they could spend. They learned when to push forward. They learned when to rest. The rhythm of work and recovery became deeply familiar. In a shaded room, a scribe continues writing. His work is less physical, but it demands concentration. The reed pen moves steadily. Lines of symbols appear. Records must be accurate. Information must be preserved. Mistakes create extra work. The scribe's routine depends upon patience rather than strength. Yet it remains a routine all the same. Every profession develops its own habits, its own patterns, its own daily rhythm. Outside, the afternoon slowly begins. The sun starts its gradual journey downward. The worst of the heat begins to ease. Workers notice immediately. The change may be small at first, but it feels significant. A little more breeze. A little less glare. A little less exhaustion. The promise of evening appears on the horizon. Across the fields, farmers continue their work. But thoughts increasingly turn toward home. Toward meals. Toward rest. Toward family. The long day is beginning to close. One by one, tasks are completed. Tools are gathered. Animals are checked. Equipment is stored. Roads become busy again as workers head back toward their villages. Dust rises beneath hundreds of footsteps. The scene repeats itself day after day. And because it repeats, it feels dependable. Many ancient Egyptians could predict the shape of tomorrow before tomorrow arrived. Not every detail, but enough. Enough to create stability. Enough to create comfort. As evening settles over the Nile Valley, golden sunlight washes across the landscape. Palm trees cast long shadows. The river reflects warm colors. Children wait near homes. Parents return from work. Cooking fires are lit. The smell of bread begins drifting through the air. Soon families gather together. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. The labor of the day slowly fades into memory. Darkness approaches once more. Stars begin appearing overhead. The temperature cools. The village quiets. And beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, another familiar day gently comes to rest, while the Nile continues flowing through the night exactly as it did yesterday, and exactly as it will do tomorrow. Night settles gently across the Nile Valley once again. The last traces of sunlight have disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving only a deep blue sky slowly filling with stars. The river glides through the darkness with quiet confidence, following the same path it has followed for countless generations. Along its banks, villages grow still. Voices become softer. Footsteps become fewer. The work of the day has ended. For many Egyptians, these evening hours are among the most peaceful moments they will experience. The air is cooler now. The harsh heat that pressed down upon fields and roads throughout the afternoon has finally loosened its hold. People sit outside their homes. Some speak quietly with neighbors. Others simply enjoy the comfort of resting muscles. Children, exhausted from a day of movement and play, begin growing sleepy. The entire village slowly prepares itself for another night. Ancient Egyptian life was often demanding. Many modern people imagine a world filled mainly with temples, monuments, and royal palaces. But most Egyptians spent their lives doing ordinary work. Their days revolved around practical needs. Food had to be grown. Water had to be carried. Tools had to be maintained. Animals had to be cared for. Clothing had to be repaired. Nothing happened automatically. Almost everything required human effort. Because of this, routine became extremely important. Without routine, many daily responsibilities would become difficult to manage. A family needed to know what came next. The village needed predictable rhythms. The fields needed regular attention. The river itself followed patterns that encouraged careful planning. And so life developed around dependable habits. As darkness deepens, a farmer lies down to sleep. His body feels heavy. Hours spent bending, lifting, and walking have left their mark. His hands are rough from labor. His shoulders ache slightly. Yet there is satisfaction in completing another day. Tomorrow will bring more work. But tomorrow is still far away. For now, rest arrives. Nearby, a fisherman sleeps after spending the day along the Nile. His boat is secured along the riverbank. The nets have been gathered. The catch has been distributed or traded. The responsibilities of the day are finished. Like the farmer, he sleeps knowing that morning will bring familiar tasks. Elsewhere, a potter rests after shaping clay vessels. A merchant sleeps after arranging goods and speaking with customers. A scribe sleeps after spending hours recording information. Different professions. Different responsibilities. Yet all connected by the same pattern. Wake. Work. Eat. Rest. Sleep. Then begin again. The stars drift slowly overhead. Hours pass quietly. The moon casts pale light across rooftops and narrow streets. Palm trees stand like dark silhouettes against the sky. The Nile continues flowing beside sleeping communities. Its presence is constant. For many Egyptians, the river feels almost like a living companion. Every stage of life depends upon it. The water feeds crops. The water supports fish. The water connects settlements. Without the Nile, many of these villages could not exist. And because the river is dependable, people build dependable routines around it. Eventually, the darkest part of the night arrives. The village is completely still. Even the animals are quiet. Only the occasional sound of wind moving through reeds breaks the silence. Then, very slowly, the cycle begins again. The horizon lightens. The stars begin fading. The first birds announce the coming day. Another morning approaches. A woman wakes before sunrise. Her family still sleeps. For a few moments she listens to the quiet. Then she rises and begins her work. The grain waiting in storage jars must be prepared. Breakfast must be made. Water may need to be gathered. The household depends upon these tasks. And so the routine begins once more. The grinding stone produces its familiar rhythm. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The sound echoes softly through the room. Across the village, similar sounds appear from other homes. Many households are beginning the day in exactly the same way. It has happened for years. It may continue for years more. The repetition creates a sense of order. People know what is expected. People know what must be done. As dawn spreads across the landscape, workers emerge from their homes. The streets slowly fill with movement. Sandals brush against dusty ground. Tools are carried over shoulders. Water jars are balanced carefully in practiced hands. The village awakens one household at a time. No one seems surprised by what the day requires. The tasks are already known. This familiarity helps reduce uncertainty. A farmer walking toward the fields rarely wonders what he will be doing. The work is waiting. It always is. The fields stretch alongside the Nile, rich with life. Canals carry water where it is needed. Plants grow in carefully managed rows. The fertile soil stands in sharp contrast to the surrounding desert. Every season brings its own responsibilities. Yet within those seasons, daily routines remain remarkably steady. Workers inspect crops, repair channels, remove weeds, guide animals, carry supplies. Each action may seem small on its own. Together they sustain an entire civilization. The morning remains cool for a little while. A gentle breeze crosses the fields. Birds move among the reeds. The sunlight feels pleasant rather than harsh. Many workers appreciate these early hours. The body feels stronger. The air feels lighter. The day still holds promise. As the sun rises higher, workshops throughout the village become active. A carpenter examines pieces of wood. Perhaps he is building furniture. Perhaps he is repairing tools. Perhaps he is creating simple household items. Whatever the task, his hands move with confidence. Routine has taught him exactly how to begin. Nearby, a weaver works patiently. Thread passes through practiced fingers. The process is repetitive but necessary. Clothing wears out. New fabric is always needed. The work never truly ends. Instead, it continues steadily from day to day. Ancient Egyptian society relied upon countless workers performing countless routines. Most people were not seeking adventure. Most people were trying to support their families. The safest path often involved doing familiar things well. Knowledge accumulated slowly. Experience deepened over years. Routine transformed effort into skill. A young apprentice might spend years watching an experienced craftsman. At first, the tasks seem difficult. The hands feel clumsy. Mistakes happen often. But repetition changes everything. Gradually movements become smoother. Confidence grows. What once felt complicated becomes natural. The body learns. The mind remembers. Routine becomes a teacher. By midday, the heat begins building once again. The sky remains clear. The sunlight becomes intense. Workers seek shade whenever possible. Even a small patch of shadow offers relief. A merchant pauses beneath a simple covering stretched above his stall. The shade cools his face. Nearby, customers move more slowly than they did earlier in the morning. The entire village adjusts itself to the temperature. Ancient Egyptians were deeply familiar with heat. They understood its power. They respected its limits. Life was organized around it. People worked when conditions allowed. They conserved energy when necessary. The environment shaped their routines as much as tradition did. As afternoon arrives, fatigue begins to spread. Shoulders feel heavier. Legs grow tired. The excitement of morning has long since faded. Now comes endurance. The ability to continue despite discomfort. Many workers have practiced this skill for years. A farmer straightens his back and looks toward the horizon. A fisherman checks his nets one more time. A laborer wipes dust from his hands. The day moves steadily forward. Eventually the shadows begin growing longer. The sunlight softens. The worst of the heat starts to fade. Relief spreads quietly through the community. People know evening is approaching. Work continues, but the end is visible. This moment arrives every day. And every day it feels welcome. The roads slowly fill with workers returning home. The atmosphere changes. The urgency of labor disappears. Conversations become more relaxed. Children wait near doorways. Cooking fires begin producing thin streams of smoke. The smell of baking bread drifts through the warm evening air. A familiar scent. A comforting scent. One that has greeted countless Egyptians after long days of work. Families gather once more. Food is shared. Water is poured. Stories are exchanged. The day's responsibilities are set aside for a little while. People rest. They recover. They prepare themselves for tomorrow. Above them, the sky slowly darkens. Stars emerge one by one. The river reflects their light. The village grows quieter. And once again, the great rhythm of ancient Egypt continues, steady and unbroken, carrying ordinary people through another peaceful evening beside the endless waters of the Nile. The evening settles softly over the Nile Valley. The last conversations of the day drift through the warm air and slowly fade away. One by one, cooking fires grow dim. Families finish their meals. Children become quiet. The sounds of work disappear into memory. Above the village, countless stars fill the sky. Without bright lights to compete with them, they seem endless. Their pale glow stretches across the heavens from one horizon to the other. Many ancient Egyptians ended their days beneath these same stars. They watched them appear each evening. They watched them vanish each morning. Like so many other parts of life, the stars followed a dependable pattern. Night after night. Year after year. The familiar return of these lights brought a sense of order to the world. Inside a simple home, an elderly woman settles down to rest. Her life has been shaped by routine for many decades. She has seen seasons come and go. She has watched children grow into adults. She has watched floods arrive and retreat. Many details have changed throughout her lifetime. Yet the rhythm of daily life has remained remarkably familiar. Morning work. Midday heat. Evening meals. Nighttime rest. The cycle has accompanied her for as long as she can remember. Nearby, another family sleeps on woven mats. The room is quiet. Storage jars line one wall. A few baskets sit nearby. Simple possessions fill the space. Nothing extravagant. Nothing unnecessary. Objects are valued because they are useful. A clay jar may serve a family for years. A tool may pass from parent to child. Many items become part of daily routines simply because they remain present for so long. The same bowl. The same basket. The same doorway. The same path outside. Familiarity surrounds everyday life. Hours pass. The Nile flows through the darkness. A light breeze moves through reeds along the riverbank. Somewhere in the distance, a boat creaks gently against its mooring. The sound is faint, almost soothing. The village sleeps. The river remains awake. Long before dawn, the air becomes especially cool. This is one of the quietest moments of the entire day. Even the animals are still. The sky overhead remains filled with stars. The world feels suspended between yesterday and tomorrow. Then, very gradually, morning begins to arrive. A faint glow appears along the eastern horizon. The darkness softens. The stars begin disappearing one by one. A bird calls. Another answers. The village slowly prepares itself for another familiar day. A farmer wakes before sunrise. For a moment he sits quietly. The room around him is still. The rest of the household sleeps. Outside, the air feels fresh. Soon the heat will return. But for now, the morning belongs to cool shadows and gentle breezes. He steps outside. The ground beneath his sandals feels firm and familiar. He has walked this path thousands of times. There is no need to think about where he is going. His body already knows. Routine has transformed the journey into something almost automatic. Nearby, a woman begins preparing grain. The grinding stone waits where it always waits. The work begins where yesterday's work ended. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The steady sound fills the room. Across the village, many others perform the same task. Bread is not prepared occasionally. It is prepared constantly. The effort never truly stops. Each day requires new flour. Each day requires new dough. Each day requires new loaves. Food sits at the center of daily life. And because food is so important, many routines revolve around it. Children begin waking. Some help immediately. Others need a little encouragement. Small hands carry water. Small feet cross dusty floors. Lessons begin early in ancient Egypt. Responsibility is often learned through participation rather than instruction. A child watches adults work, then slowly joins them. Year after year, the routines of one generation pass naturally to the next. As dawn spreads across the landscape, the Nile takes on shades of gold and silver. The river reflects the growing light. Mist lingers briefly above the surface before fading away. Fishermen prepare their boats. They untangle nets, check ropes, inspect equipment. Most of these actions require little thought. Experience guides every movement. A fisherman who has spent years on the river can often perform many tasks almost without looking. His hands understand the work. His eyes recognize problems immediately. Repetition has sharpened his skills. Soon the boats begin moving away from shore. Their reflections ripple across the water. The morning remains peaceful. Birds glide above the reeds. The river flows steadily onward. For a short while, the world feels calm and cool. Across the fields, farmers arrive at their work. The rich soil beside the Nile waits patiently. Plants grow in neat rows. Canals carry life-giving water. Workers spread across the landscape. Some inspect crops. Some repair irrigation channels. Some guide animals. Others prepare sections of land for future planting. The tasks differ slightly. The rhythm remains the same. Ancient Egyptian farming depended upon consistency. Missing important work could have serious consequences. Crops could suffer. Food supplies could shrink. Families could struggle. Routine helped prevent these problems. By following familiar schedules, people ensured that important tasks were completed at the right time. The sun rises steadily. Warmth spreads across the valley. The pleasant coolness of dawn begins fading away. Workers know exactly what this means. The hotter hours are approaching. They continue working while conditions remain manageable. In a nearby workshop, a potter begins shaping clay. The wheel spins smoothly. His hands press gently against the damp material. A vessel slowly takes shape. The process cannot be rushed. Patience matters. Care matters. Every movement influences the final result. The potter has repeated these actions countless times. Each completed vessel reflects years of experience. Routine has become mastery. Nearby, a carpenter examines pieces of wood. He studies the grain carefully. Then begins his work. The smell of freshly cut wood fills the air. Tools scrape softly against the surface. Wood shavings gather near his feet. Like the potter, he relies on repetition. The hands become skilled because they perform the same tasks again and again. Throughout the village, workshops produce countless useful items. Furniture, tools, containers, clothing, ropes, baskets. Every object begins with ordinary labor. Every object passes through the hands of someone following a familiar routine. As morning becomes midday, the heat intensifies. The sky remains clear and bright. Shadows shorten. Dusty roads shimmer beneath the sunlight. People seek shade whenever possible. Even a small patch of shadow cast by a wall can feel valuable. A merchant adjusts a cloth covering above his stall. The shade helps protect both himself and his goods. Customers arrive more slowly now. The heat encourages patience. Few people wish to move quickly beneath the afternoon sun. Ancient Egyptians learned to work with the environment rather than against it. The climate shaped schedules. The climate influenced routines. The climate determined when certain tasks felt easiest or most difficult. Life adapted accordingly. A laborer carrying supplies pauses beneath a tree. His shoulders ache. His clothing is damp with sweat. For a few moments he simply rests. The breeze feels pleasant against his skin. Nearby, another worker drinks water from a clay jar. The coolness brings relief. Simple comforts become important during long days of physical work. Throughout the valley, countless workers experience similar moments. Moments of effort. Moments of fatigue. Moments of recovery. The rhythm of labor continues. By late afternoon, the sunlight begins softening. The change is gradual but noticeable. Long shadows return. The air feels slightly less oppressive. Workers lift their heads toward the horizon. The end of the workday is approaching. Across the fields, tools are gathered. Canals are inspected one final time. Animals are checked. Supplies are organized. The tasks of today are nearly complete. Soon workers begin making their way home. Roads fill with familiar faces. Dust rises beneath sandals. Conversations drip through the air. People discuss crops, fishing, family matters, the condition of the river. The topics often remain surprisingly consistent. The same concerns return because the same responsibilities return. Life is built around continuity. As evening settles across the Nile Valley, smoke rises from cooking fires. The smell of bread once again drifts through the village. Children run toward returning parents. Doors open. Water is poured. Meals are prepared. The atmosphere softens. The tension of labor fades away. For a little while, work can wait. The sky turns gold. Then orange. Then purple. Finally, darkness begins spreading across the land. Stars appear overhead. The river reflects their light. The village grows quiet. And beneath the endless night sky of ancient Egypt, another day gently folds into memory, while the steady routines that shaped countless lives continue flowing forward as calmly and faithfully as the Nile itself. Darkness settles over the Nile Valley once more. The stars shine brightly above the river, scattered across the sky like countless tiny lanterns. Their reflections shimmer softly on the water, breaking apart whenever a gentle ripple moves across the surface. The village has grown quiet. Most doors are closed. Most voices have faded. The day's work has ended, and people rest within the shelter of their homes. The Nile continues its slow journey through the darkness. It moves without hurry, without pause, without concern for the passing of years. For the people of ancient Egypt, this quiet presence is deeply familiar. Many have spent their entire lives beside these waters. The river has been there every morning, every afternoon, every evening. Its steady reliability becomes part of daily life. In many ways, routine feels natural because the world around them is filled with repeating patterns. The river flows. The sun rises. The seasons return. The crops grow. Night follows day. Day follows night. Nothing seems rushed. Nothing seems unexpected. Inside a small mud-brick house, a father sleeps beside his family. Tomorrow he will return to the fields. He already knows what the morning will require. The tools are ready. The path is familiar. The work awaits him. There is comfort in this certainty. Much of ancient life depends on predictability. A person who understands the rhythm of the year can prepare for what is coming. A person who understands daily routines can organize labor wisely. The same habits repeated over time help entire communities survive. The night deepens. The air cools further. Outside, the streets remain empty. A few dogs wander quietly before eventually settling down. Palm leaves rustle gently overhead. The sounds are soft enough to blend into the darkness. Hours pass. The stars slowly shift across the heavens. Then, as always, morning begins approaching once again. The eastern horizon grows pale. A faint line of silver appears where earth meets sky. Birds begin calling from the reeds. The darkness slowly retreats. A new day arrives. One of the first people awake is a baker. His body has followed the same schedule for years. He rises before most of the village. The ovens must be prepared. The dough must be shaped. The bread must be ready long before the day grows hot. His work begins while many others are still sleeping. The bakery smells faintly of grain and ash. He checks the fire carefully. Adds fuel. Adjusts the heat. His movements are deliberate and practiced. Every action follows a familiar sequence. There is little uncertainty. Routine guides him from one task to the next. Nearby, households are beginning to wake as well. Women prepare grain. Children gather water. Animals become active. The village slowly fills with life. A thin layer of dust covers many roads. Soon hundreds of sandals will pass over them. The morning air remains cool. For now, people enjoy this brief comfort. Farmers walk toward the fields. The path winds through fertile land nourished by the Nile. Many of these farmers have followed the same route for years. Perhaps even decades. The journey requires almost no thought. The feet know where to step. The eyes recognize every landmark. A distant palm tree. A bend in the canal. A cluster of reeds. The landscape itself becomes part of memory. Routine is not only about actions. It is also about places. The same roads. The same riverbanks. The same fields. The same homes. Familiar surroundings help create a sense of belonging. As sunlight spreads across the valley, the fields begin filling with workers. The soil appears dark and rich beneath the growing light. Canals carry water through carefully maintained channels. Plants sway gently in the morning breeze. Work begins. Some workers clear weeds. Others inspect irrigation systems. Others tend animals. The tasks vary slightly from day to day, but the overall rhythm remains remarkably stable. This stability is important. Ancient Egypt depends upon agriculture. Agriculture depends upon careful attention. And careful attention often depends upon routine. A farmer who follows familiar habits is less likely to overlook important work. The routine itself becomes a form of protection. Nearby, a young boy accompanies an older relative. He watches carefully. Observes every task. Learns every step. The education of many children happens this way. Knowledge is not always taught through formal lessons. Instead, it is absorbed through observation and repetition. The child watches. Then helps. Then practices. Eventually the routine becomes his own. This process continues across generations. Parents teach children. Children become adults. Adults teach their own children. The cycle never truly stops. By mid-morning, the village is fully awake. Workshops buzz with activity. A potter shapes clay. A carpenter smooths wood. A basket maker weaves reeds together. The sounds of labor fill the air. Scraping. Hammering. Cutting. Shaping. Nothing dramatic. Just the steady sounds of people doing their work. Many artisans spend years mastering their craft. The repetition can seem endless. Yet each day strengthens skill. Hands become steadier. Movements become smoother. Mistakes become less common. Routine slowly transforms effort into expertise. Inside a shaded room, a scribe prepares to write. His tools are simple. Reed pens. Ink. Writing surfaces. Yet his work is important. Records help keep society organized. Grain deliveries. Tax records. Inventories. Official correspondence. All require careful documentation. The scribe settles into his routine. He prepares materials. Reviews information. Begins writing. The work demands concentration. But it also offers familiarity. Every day follows a recognizable pattern. As the sun climbs higher, warmth spreads across the valley. The coolness of dawn disappears. The air becomes heavier. Workers begin feeling the heat. This transition happens every day. Nobody is surprised by it. Everyone expects it. People organize their labor around it. The environment itself shapes routine. Fields are busiest during cooler hours. Certain tasks are delayed until conditions improve. Shade becomes increasingly valuable. A merchant stands beneath a canopy at the marketplace. Customers move slowly through the rows of stalls. Baskets filled with goods rest nearby. The merchant greets familiar faces. Many customers return again and again. Relationships develop over time. Routine creates trust. People know where to find what they need. They know which merchant sells grain, which merchant sells fish, which merchant sells pottery. The marketplace functions smoothly because patterns become established. Across the village, meals are being prepared. The smell of baking bread drifts through narrow streets. Clay ovens release warmth into the air. Someone slices vegetables. Someone stirs a pot. Someone carries water from a storage jar. Food preparation occupies a large portion of daily life. It is repetitive work. Necessary work. Important work. The routine surrounding meals help structure the day itself. Morning food. Midday food. Evening food. The cycle continues. By midday, the heat becomes intense. The sun hangs high above the valley. Stone surfaces grow hot. Dust rises beneath passing feet. Workers pause when possible. A laborer sits beneath a shaded wall. His breathing slows. His muscles recover. The brief rest feels valuable. Ancient Egyptians understood the importance of pacing themselves. The day is long. Energy must be managed carefully. The rhythm of work includes moments of recovery. Without them, exhaustion arrives quickly. A fisherman along the river checks his nets. The water sparkles beneath the sunlight. Birds glide overhead. The river appears peaceful despite the heat. The fisherman works steadily. No sudden movements. No wasted effort. Years of experience have taught him efficiency. Routine often removes unnecessary actions. People learn what works. Then continue doing it. The afternoon passes gradually. The sunlight slowly softens. Shadows begin stretching across the landscape. Workers notice the change immediately. The hardest hours are ending. Relief spreads quietly. Across fields and workshops, tasks begin winding down. Tools are gathered. Materials are stored. Animals are checked. Preparations for tomorrow begin before today's work has fully ended. That too is part of the routine. One day naturally leads into the next. Nothing exists completely on its own. Evening approaches. The roads fill with returning workers. Dust rises beneath countless footsteps. Children wait near homes. Families reunite. Cooking fires are lit. The familiar scent of bread drifts through the air once more. Conversations begin. Stories are shared. The atmosphere becomes softer. Gentler. The pressures of labor fade for a little while. Above the village, the sky gradually changes color. Gold becomes orange. Orange becomes violet. Then darkness slowly returns. The first stars appear. The Nile reflects their light. The village grows quiet. And as another peaceful night settles over ancient Egypt, the steady rhythm of ordinary life continues, carrying farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, merchants, and families gently forward into another familiar tomorrow. The stars hang quietly above the Nile. Their light spreads across the dark water in long, trembling reflections that drift and break apart with every small movement of the current. Along the riverbanks, reeds sway softly in the night breeze. Palm trees stand motionless against the sky. The village is asleep. Doors are closed. Cooking fires have faded. The day's voices have disappeared. Only the sounds of nature remain. A distant insect. The whisper of wind. The steady movement of water. For the people of ancient Egypt, nights often felt deeply peaceful. The heat of the day was gone. The pressure of work had faded. For a few precious hours, bodies could recover from labor. Muscles could rest. Minds could become quiet. The next day would arrive soon enough. But not yet. Inside a modest home, a fisherman sleeps soundly. His hands bear the marks of years spent handling ropes and nets. His skin has been darkened by endless mornings beneath the sun. Tomorrow he will return to the river. The routine is already waiting for him. The boat remains tied along the shore. The nets remain folded. The Nile remains exactly where it has always been. There is comfort in that certainty. Not every part of life can be controlled. Storms may come. Crops may struggle. Illness may appear. Yet many daily routines remain dependable. They provide a sense of stability in an uncertain world. Across the village, an elderly farmer sleeps nearby. His body no longer moves as quickly as it once did. Years of labor have left their traces. His back feels stiff in the morning. His knees ache after long walks. His hands are rough from decades of work. Yet even now, routine guides him. The same habits that carried him through youth continue carrying him through old age. Many people in ancient Egypt measured time less by years and more by cycles. The flooding of the Nile. The harvest. The planting season. The return of certain stars. The arrival of familiar tasks. Life flowed in repeating patterns. One season connected naturally to the next. One day blended gently into another. As the night deepens, the air grows cooler. The village becomes even quieter. A dog curls beside a doorway. A donkey sleeps near a wall. The entire settlement seems wrapped in stillness. Then, far away along the horizon, the first hint of morning appears. The change is almost impossible to notice at first. A slight fading of darkness. A pale glow beyond the eastern desert. The stars begin surrendering their place in the sky. Morning is returning. Slowly. Patiently. As it always does. One by one, people begin waking. A baker rises first. His work cannot wait for full daylight. Bread must be prepared before the village becomes busy. He moves quietly through familiar motions. Checking fuel. Preparing dough. Inspecting the oven. Nothing feels rushed. Every action follows a sequence refined through years of repetition. The bakery slowly comes alive. The smell of grain begins filling the air. Soon that smell will drip through nearby streets. Soon families throughout the village will begin their own morning routines. In another home, a woman kneels beside a grinding stone. The grain must become flour. The flour must become bread. The bread must feed the family. The process begins once again. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The sound is steady. Almost hypnotic. Across ancient Egypt, countless people begin their mornings this way. The task is demanding. Yet it is familiar. The body knows exactly how much pressure to apply. The hands know exactly how to move. Routine transforms difficult work into something manageable. As dawn spreads across the Nile Valley, the landscape slowly reveals itself. The river shines beneath the growing light. Fields emerge from the shadows. Palm trees stand against a sky turning gold. Birds move among the reeds. The world is waking. Farmers leave their homes. Tools rest across their shoulders. Some walk alone. Others travel with family members or neighbors. Dust rises beneath their sandals. The roads feel familiar beneath their feet. Many have followed these same paths for years. Every turn is known. Every landmark is remembered. There is little need for thought. The journey has become part of the body itself. Routine often works this way. Actions repeated often enough become effortless. The mind can focus elsewhere while the body follows a familiar pattern. Across the fields, workers begin another day of labor. The fertile land beside the Nile appears dark and rich. Water moves through irrigation canals. Plants sway gently in the morning breeze. For now, the air remains comfortable. The heat has not yet arrived. These early hours are valuable. Workers use them wisely. Some inspect crops. Some repair canals. Others prepare tools. The tasks are simple. Yet together they support entire communities. Ancient Egypt depends upon countless small acts of labor repeated every day. A canal repaired today helps water reach crops tomorrow. A field cleared today supports future harvests. A tool maintained today prevents problems later. Routine helps ensure that important work is not forgotten. Nearby, a young girl carries water toward her family's home. The clay jar feels heavy. She walks carefully. Water is essential. It is needed for drinking, cooking, cleaning. Many daily activities depend upon it. The task may seem ordinary. Yet ordinary tasks often occupy much of human life. Ancient Egyptians understood this well. Most days were not filled with dramatic events. Most days were filled with responsibilities. Small duties performed faithfully. Again and again. As morning progresses, workshops begin opening throughout the village. A potter sits before his wheel. A carpenter arranges tools. A weaver prepares thread. Each artisan enters a familiar rhythm. The potter centers clay. The carpenter measures wood. The weaver guides fibers through practiced fingers. Years of repetition have created confidence. The work feels natural, expected, comfortably familiar. Many craftsmen spend decades refining the same skills. The routine itself becomes a source of pride. Good work comes from patience. Good work comes from consistency. The same careful habits repeated over many years create remarkable results. By late morning, the village is fully active. The marketplace fills with movement. Merchants greet customers. Goods change hands. Voices mingle in the warm air. Yet even here, amid activity, routine remains visible. People visit familiar stalls. They purchase familiar goods. They follow familiar paths through the market. Trust grows through repetition. Relationships strengthen through repeated encounters. A merchant may spend years serving the same families. A customer may return to the same stall countless times. The routine creates connections. The sun continues climbing. Warmth spreads across the valley. Shadows begin shrinking. The heat gradually becomes more noticeable. Workers adjust naturally. They seek shade when possible. They conserve energy. They understand the rhythm of the day. A laborer carrying supplies pauses briefly beneath a palm tree. His shoulders ache. Sweat gathers along his forehead. For a few moments he simply stands in the shade. The breeze feels pleasant. The relief feels meaningful. Simple comforts often matter most after hard work. Ancient Egyptian life was filled with these small moments. A cool drink of water. A patch of shade. A meal shared with family. A quiet evening beside the river. These experiences provided balance. They made demanding routines easier to endure. By midday, the sunlight becomes intense. Roads shimmer beneath the heat. Stone walls radiate warmth. Animals gather wherever shade can be found. People move more slowly. Conversations become quieter. The landscape itself seems to pause. Even the Nile appears calm beneath the bright sky. Its waters continue flowing, but without hurry. The river never rushes. Perhaps that is one reason it feels so reassuring. It follows its path steadily, faithfully, day after day, year after year. The people living beside it often do the same. As afternoon slowly approaches, workers continue their tasks. Fields remain busy. Workshops remain active. Boats move across the river. Life continues according to familiar rhythms. And beneath the wide Egyptian sky, another ordinary day unfolds with quiet purpose, carrying countless people through the routines that shape their lives as surely and gently as the Nile shapes the land around them. The afternoon sun hangs high above the Nile Valley. Its bright light spreads across the fields, the roads, the workshops, and the quiet river itself. Heat settles over the land like a heavy blanket. Dust rises beneath passing sandals and drifts lazily through the warm air. For many workers, this is the most demanding part of the day. The coolness of morning has long disappeared. The relief of evening is still far away. Now comes the slow work of endurance. A farmer stands beside an irrigation canal. The water moves steadily through the channel, making a soft sound as it flows toward the fields. He watches carefully. The crops depend upon this water. Too little can weaken plants. Too much can damage them. Generations of farmers have learned these lessons. The knowledge has been passed quietly from parent to child, neighbor to neighbor, worker to worker. Many people never write these lessons down. They simply live them. The routine itself becomes a kind of memory. Nearby, another worker repairs a section of canal wall. His hands press wet mud into place. The task is simple but important. Without constant care, the channels can weaken. Without channels, water cannot reach every field. Without water, the harvest suffers. Ancient Egyptian life often depended upon small acts performed consistently. Routine was not merely a habit. It was a practical tool. A way of protecting tomorrow. The sun continues shining overhead. Birds search for shade among the reeds. A donkey flicks its tail lazily. Even the breeze seems slower now. In a nearby village, the marketplace remains active despite the heat. Merchants sit beneath simple coverings stretched above their stalls. The shade provides some comfort. Customers move carefully through narrow paths between baskets, jars, and bundles of goods. Voices remain calm. Nothing feels hurried. Life follows the pace of the human body. People walk because they must walk. They carry because they must carry. They rest because they must rest. The rhythm feels natural. A merchant arranges pottery beside his stall. His hands move automatically. He has placed these items on display thousands of times. He knows exactly where each piece belongs. Routine removes uncertainty. Instead of making decisions again and again, Many tasks simply unfold according to habit. This saves energy. It saves time. It creates stability. Across the settlement, a potter continues his work. The wheel turns slowly. The clay responds to gentle pressure from experienced hands. A storage jar begins to emerge from the spinning mass. Its shape appears gradually. There is no rush. Clay rewards patience. The potter understands this. Every vessel begins in much the same way. Yet every vessel remains important. Families will store grain in these containers. Water will be carried in them. Food will be preserved inside them. Ordinary objects support ordinary lives. And ordinary lives form the foundation of entire civilizations. The heat continues building. Workers wipe perspiration from their faces. Shadows hide beneath walls. Animals seek shelter wherever they can find it. For many Egyptians, midday is a time of persistence rather than speed. The goal is simply to continue. One task at a time. 1 hour at a time. A fisherman along the Nile checks his nets. The river sparkles beneath the sunlight. Small ripples move across the surface. The sound of water remains soothing even during the hottest hours. The fisherman pulls carefully on a rope. The movement is familiar. His muscles know exactly how much effort to use. Years of repetition have taught efficiency. Routine often reduces waste. People learn the simplest path through experience. Then they follow it again and again. A short distance away, a young apprentice works beside an older craftsman. The apprentice watches closely. Every movement matters. The older worker demonstrates a technique. The younger worker tries to copy it. The first attempt may not be perfect. The second may not be perfect either. But improvement comes through repetition. That lesson appears everywhere in ancient Egypt. Farmers learn through repeated seasons. Craftsmen learn through repeated projects. Fishermen learn through repeated journeys on the river. Children learn through repeated responsibilities. Routine becomes a teacher. The afternoon slowly advances. The sunlight begins its gradual journey toward the western horizon. The change is subtle at first. Almost impossible to notice. But eventually workers feel it. The angle of light shifts. Shadows begin growing longer. The air loses a little of its harshness. Relief approaches. Across the fields, labor continues. A group of workers gathers harvested plants. Another group repairs equipment. Others inspect crops before leaving for the day. Each task prepares the way for tomorrow. The work never truly ends. One day simply leads into the next. A farmer finishes checking a canal and begins walking home. The path feels familiar beneath his sandals. Dust rises around his feet. Palm trees sway gently in the distance. He passes neighbors returning from their own work. Brief greetings are exchanged. Nothing elaborate. Just small acknowledgements between people who see one another almost every day. These repeated encounters strengthen communities. People become familiar with one another. They recognize faces. They learn names. They understand each other's routines. The village itself becomes a network of shared habits. As the sun lowers further, the atmosphere begins changing. The intense brightness softens. Golden light spreads across walls and rooftops. The Nile takes on warm colors. Its surface glows beneath the evening sky. This is one of the most beautiful moments of the day. Not because anything dramatic happens, but because everything becomes gentler. The pressure of labor begins fading. The promise of rest appears. Children emerge from homes and gather near open spaces. Some play simple games. Others help prepare for the evening meal. Their laughter drifts through the warm air. Parents return carrying tools and supplies. Doors open. Voices grow more frequent. The village comes alive in a different way. Not through work. Through reunion. A woman removes fresh bread from an oven. The smell spreads quickly through nearby streets. Warm grain. Smoke. Earth. The scent feels comforting after a long day. Families begin gathering together. Water is poured into cups. Food is shared. Stories are exchanged. The atmosphere becomes calmer. People speak about crops. About fishing. About neighbors. About plans for tomorrow. The conversations themselves often follow familiar paths. The same concerns return because daily life returns. Routine shapes not only actions but thoughts as well. Nearby, an elderly man sits outside his home. The evening breeze touches his face. He watches the village quietly. Many of the routines surrounding him have remained unchanged for decades. Children grow up. Families expand. Workers age. Yet the rhythm continues. Morning follows night. Work follows morning. Rest follows work. The pattern remains steady. Perhaps that is why so many ancient Egyptians embraced routine. It connected them to something larger than themselves. A farmer could look at his father and see similar habits. He could look at his grandfather's generation and see similar responsibilities. The routines linked one generation to another. The same paths. The same fields. The same river. The same stars. As darkness slowly spreads across the Nile Valley, the first stars begin appearing overhead. One by one they emerge from the deepening blue sky. The air cools. The village quiets. Cooking fires burn softly. The river reflects the growing darkness. Families prepare for sleep. Children become drowsy. Voices grow softer. The long day is ending. And beneath the ancient stars of Egypt, another peaceful evening settles over the land, while the familiar routines that have guided countless lives continue flowing forward as steadily as the waters of the Nile through the night. Night settles once again over the Nile Valley. The stars shine brightly above the river, and their reflections drift slowly across the dark water. Along the banks, reeds sway gently in the cool breeze. The heat of the day has finally faded, leaving behind a calm stillness that spreads across fields, villages, and dusty roads. Most of the village is asleep now. The workshops are silent. The marketplace stands empty. The ovens have cooled. The tools of the day rest where they were placed before sunset. Only the Nile continues its endless journey through the darkness. Its quiet movement seems almost timeless. For generations beyond counting, people have fallen asleep listening to the soft sounds of this river. Children have grown up beside it. Farmers have depended upon it. Fishermen have trusted it. Families have built entire lives around it. The river changes, yet it remains. And because it remains, many routines remain as well. Inside a modest home, a mother sleeps beside her children. The room is simple. Clay jars stand against the wall. Baskets hold stored grain. A few household tools rest nearby. Nothing appears remarkable. Yet nearly every object inside this room plays a role in daily life. Each item serves a purpose. Each item returns to use again and again. The jar that stores grain tonight may help prepare tomorrow's bread. The basket resting quietly in the corner may carry vegetables in the morning. Routine touches even the smallest details of life. Outside, the air continues cooling. The desert beyond the fertile valley releases the warmth it gathered during the day. The breeze becomes softer. Palm leaves rustle quietly overhead. The village sleeps deeply. Hours pass. The moon drifts across the sky. The stars slowly change position. Time moves gently forward. Then, almost without notice, the first signs of dawn begin to appear. The eastern horizon lightens. The darkness softens. The stars begin fading one by one. The cycle is beginning again. A baker wakes before sunrise. His body follows a schedule learned long ago. There is no need for an alarm. Years of habit guide him. He rises quietly. Checks the ovens. Prepares fuel. Examines dough prepared the previous day. Every action follows a familiar order. One task naturally leads to another. Routine removes hesitation. The baker knows exactly where to begin. Soon, faint smells of grain and warm bread begin drifting through the cool morning air. Elsewhere, a farmer wakes. His muscles still carry traces of yesterday's labor. There is stiffness in his back. A heaviness in his legs. Yet he rises without complaint. Work awaits him. The fields await him. The routine is already calling. He steps outside. The village remains quiet. Only a handful of people are awake. The air feels fresh against his skin. For a few moments, the world belongs to the early risers. Nearby, cooking fires begin appearing one by one. Thin streams of smoke rise toward the brightening sky. The familiar sound of grinding stones echoes from nearby homes. Forward. Back. Forward. Back. The rhythm has been repeated for generations. Women prepare grain. Flour is made. Bread begins its long journey from harvest to meal. Ancient Egyptian life depended heavily upon this process. Without bread, daily life becomes difficult. And so the routine continues every morning. Without fail. As dawn spreads across the Nile Valley, the river reflects the growing light. Gold appears upon the water. Birds emerge from the reeds. Small boats wait along the shore. The world slowly awakens. Fishermen begin preparing for another day. They untangle nets. Check ropes. Inspect boats. Most movements require little thought. Experience guides every action. The hands know where everything belongs. The eyes recognize problems immediately. The work has become part of the body itself. Years of repetition create confidence. A fisherman pushes away from shore. The boat glides quietly across the calm water. The sounds are gentle. The splash of an oar. The movement of the current. The distant call of birds. Morning on the Nile is peaceful. The river seems to wake slowly, just as the villages do. Across the fields, farmers arrive at their work. The soil appears dark beneath the early sunlight. Canals carry water through carefully maintained channels. Plants stand quietly in rows. Everything waits. The workers begin their tasks. Some inspect irrigation systems. Others clear weeds. Others prepare tools. The work is familiar. There are few surprises. And that familiarity helps people organize their lives. Routine creates structure. Structure creates stability. Stability allows communities to endure. A young boy walks beside his father through the fields. He listens more than he speaks. The older man points toward a section of crops. Perhaps he explains something about water levels. Perhaps he discusses planting schedules. Perhaps he simply shares observations gathered through years of experience. Knowledge often travels this way. Not through formal classrooms, but through daily routines. Lessons become woven into ordinary activities. A child learns while working, learns while walking, learns while observing. The routine itself becomes an education. As the morning advances, the village becomes busier. Merchants open stalls. Craftsmen arrange tools. Animals move through dusty streets. Voices fill the air. The sounds of daily life return. A carpenter begins shaping wood. His tools move steadily. Each cut follows careful measurements. Each movement reflects years of practice. Nearby, a basket maker weaves reeds together. The process requires patience. One strand after another. One row after another. The work may appear repetitive. Yet repetition creates quality. The finest skills often emerge from countless small actions performed consistently. Throughout ancient Egypt, routine helped transform ordinary workers into experts. The potter knew his clay. The carpenter knew his wood. The fisherman knew his river. The farmer knew his soil. The knowledge came from experience. And experience came from repetition. The sun climbs steadily higher. Warmth spreads across the valley. The cool comfort of dawn begins fading away. Workers notice the change. Shadows shorten. The brightness grows stronger. The heat returns. People adjust naturally. They seek shade when possible. They pace themselves. They understand the rhythm of the day because they have lived it thousands of times. A merchant rearranges goods beneath a cloth canopy. The shade protects both him and his customers. Nearby, people browse baskets of produce and pottery. Transactions take place calmly. There is no rush. The marketplace follows its own routine. Customers arrive. Goods are exchanged. Conversations occur. The cycle repeats. Day after day. Year after year. The marketplace becomes more than a place of trade. It becomes a place of familiarity. People expect to see certain faces. Expect to hear certain voices. Expect to follow certain paths between stalls. Routine creates a feeling of belonging. By midday, the heat grows intense. The sky remains clear. The sunlight reflects from walls and roads. Workers slow their pace. Even animals seek relief from the sun. A laborer pauses beside a shaded wall. He drinks water from a clay container. The coolness feels refreshing. A brief breeze passes through the street. For a moment, the air feels lighter. These simple comforts matter deeply. Ancient life contains many hardships. Long hours. Physical labor. Heavy heat. Yet small moments of relief make the burden easier to carry. Throughout the afternoon, work continues steadily. Fields remain active. Workshops remain busy. Boats continue moving along the river. Life unfolds according to familiar patterns. The routines that guided yesterday guide today as well. And as the sunlight slowly begins its journey toward evening, the people of ancient Egypt continue moving through another ordinary day, following rhythms so familiar that they feel as natural and enduring as the flow of the Nile itself. The afternoon stretches quietly across the Nile Valley. The sun remains bright overhead, though its journey toward the western horizon has already begun. The light falls across fields of grain, across irrigation canals, across dusty roads lined with footprints left by countless travelers throughout the day. Workers continue their tasks. The pace is steady. unhurried, measured. A farmer pauses beside a canal and looks across the fields. Warm air drifts past him. The water moves quietly through the channel. Plants sway gently beneath the sunlight. Nothing appears dramatic. Nothing appears unusual. Yet this ordinary scene contains the rhythm of an entire civilization. The fields must be tended. The water must be guided. The crops must be watched. Day after day. Season after season. Routine transforms these responsibilities into something familiar. Without routine, every decision would require fresh thought. With routine, much of life unfolds naturally. The body remembers. The hands remember. The mind follows well-traveled paths. Nearby, another farmer kneels to examine the soil. His fingers move through the dark earth. He studies the condition of the plants. These small observations matter. A successful harvest depends upon attention. And attention often grows strongest when people interact with the same environment every day. The farmer knows this field. He knows how it looks after rainfall. He knows how it appears during dry periods. He notices small changes because he has spent so much time here. Routine creates familiarity. Familiarity creates understanding. A short distance away, fishermen continue working along the river. The Nile glitters beneath the afternoon light. Boats drift slowly across its surface. The sound of water remains soft and calming. A fisherman gathers part of a net and begins repairing a damaged section. His fingers move confidently. The work requires patience. The rope twists through his hands. One knot follows another. Years of repetition have made the process almost effortless. He does not need to stop and think about every movement. His experience guides him. Many ancient Egyptians lived this way. The same tasks repeated so often that they became second nature. In the village, workshops remain busy. A potter places newly shaped vessels aside to dry. Nearby, another batch of clay waits to be formed. The wheel continues turning. Round and round. The motion itself feels almost soothing. The potter's hands move gently against the clay. Small adjustments create gradual changes. The shape emerges slowly. There is no need for haste. The clay responds best to patience. Many forms of work in ancient Egypt reward calm persistence rather than speed. A carpenter nearby smooths a piece of wood. Tiny curls fall to the floor. The scent of fresh wood drifts through the workshop. His tools have become familiar companions over many years. Each tool has its place. Each task has its sequence. Routine creates order. Order reduces confusion. And in a world where daily survival requires constant effort, order becomes valuable. As the afternoon continues, the heat slowly begins to ease. The change is subtle. Almost impossible to notice from one moment to the next. Yet workers feel it. The sunlight softens slightly. The air becomes a little less heavy. The promise of evening begins to appear. Children move through the village carrying small responsibilities. Some bring water. Some deliver messages. Some help family members with simple tasks. Their work may be lighter than that of adults, but they are already learning the rhythms of community life. Each responsibility teaches something. Each routine becomes preparation for the future. A young girl walks carefully with a clay jar balanced against her side. She follows a familiar path toward a water source. The route is known. The task is known. The expectation is known. Ancient Egyptian children often grew up surrounded by repetition. The same household duties. The same seasonal activities. The same daily patterns. Over time, these routines became part of who they were. Knowledge entered life quietly. Not through grand lessons, but through participation, through observation, through practice. As shadows begin lengthening across the landscape, workers gradually start preparing for the end of the day. A fisherman secures equipment. A farmer gathers tools. A merchant organizes goods. A craftsman cleans a work area. Many of these actions occur almost automatically. The closing routines of evening are as familiar as the opening routines of morning. One completes the day. The other begins it. Between them lies the steady flow of work. The roads slowly become busier. People start heading home. Dust rises beneath sandals. The atmosphere changes. Labor is giving way to rest. A man walking home passes neighbors traveling the same road. Greetings are exchanged. Small conversations occur. These encounters happen so often that they become woven into daily life. Community grows through repetition as well. People recognize one another because they meet again and again. They share roads, share markets, share water sources, share routines. The village itself becomes a network of familiar faces and familiar habits. The sun moves lower. Golden light spreads across mudbrick walls. Palm trees cast long shadows across the ground. The Nile reflects warm colors that ripple gently across the surface. The entire valley seems softer now. More peaceful. Even the sounds of work begin fading. In homes throughout the village, preparations for the evening meal begin. The smell of bread drifts through the air. Cooking fires release thin streams of smoke that rise toward the darkening sky. Families gather together. Water is poured into cups. Food is shared. Conversations unfold naturally. People speak about the day. About crops. About fishing. About family matters. The topics may sound ordinary. Yet ordinary concerns shape most human lives. Ancient Egyptians were no different. For many people, happiness was not found in grand achievements. It was found in successful harvests. In healthy children. In enough food. In a peaceful evening after a long day of work. Nearby, an older woman sits outside her home and watches the sky. She has seen thousands of evenings like this one. Thousands of sunsets. Thousands of mornings. Thousands of days shaped by familiar rhythms. The routines of life have carried her through youth, adulthood, and old age. The same patterns that once guided her parents now guide younger generations around her. There is something comforting about that continuity. The world changes slowly. The river continues flowing. The seasons continue turning. The routines continue returning. As darkness gradually spreads across the Nile Valley, stars begin appearing overhead. One after another. Small points of light emerge against the deepening blue sky. Children become sleepy. Conversations grow quieter. Families begin settling down for the night. The village slowly returns to silence. The marketplace is empty now. The workshops are dark. The roads stand quiet beneath the stars. Only the Nile continues moving through the darkness. Steady. Calm. Patient. And beneath the vast sky of ancient Egypt, another day gently comes to rest, while countless ordinary people drift into sleep, ready to wake once again to the familiar rhythms that have shaped their lives for generations beyond memory. Why ancient Egyptians followed the same routine every day, boring history ending, and now, the Nile Valley grows quiet. The fields rest beneath the stars. The workshops stand silent. The dusty roads that carried so many footsteps throughout the day are empty once more. Along the riverbank, reeds sway gently in the cool night breeze. The water moves slowly through the darkness, following its ancient path as it always has. The fishermen have returned home. The farmers have laid aside their tools. The bakers have finished their work. The merchants have closed their stalls. The scribes have put away their pens. Across the valley, families sleep behind mud-brick walls. The warmth of the day has faded. The air feels calm and gentle. Above them, countless stars shine over the ancient world. The same stars that watched over villages. The same stars that watched over fields of grain. The same stars that reflected softly upon the waters of the Nile thousands of years ago. For the people of ancient Egypt, routine was not simply habit. It was a way of moving peacefully through life. The river followed its course. The seasons followed their cycle. The sun rose each morning and disappeared each evening. And ordinary people followed their own familiar paths between those moments. They woke before dawn. They worked beneath the sun. They shared meals with family. They rested beneath the stars. Then they began again. Day after day. Year after year. Generation after generation. And perhaps that steady rhythm brought a quiet sense of comfort. A feeling that tomorrow would arrive as expected. A feeling that life still held its familiar shape. Now the village sleeps. The ovens are cool. The canals are still. The boats rest quietly beside the shore. The voices of the day have faded into silence. Only the river remains awake. Flowing softly through the darkness. Patient. Endless. Calm. The moon drifts higher above the Nile. A breeze passes through the reeds. Somewhere in the distance, water touches the riverbank with a gentle sound. Then even that seems to fade. The night grows deeper. The stars shine softly overhead. And the ancient world settles into peaceful stillness. The river continues its quiet journey beneath the moonlight. The fields rest beside it. The villages rest beside it. And everything becomes slower. Quieter. Softer. Until there is only the cool night air. The gentle movement of the Nile. And the silent glow of stars above ancient Egypt.